Ladies and gentlemen, the 3 knockdown rule on Triller is in effect. I'm Steve Kim, joined by Midtown Mario Lopez. I had a good time in New York.
Oh, okay. A little residual effect right there. I like that. Quick shout out to Smoking Tim Frazier, Buffalo Knuckles, and
Tino on the edits. We have got so much to talk about. Let's get into it. Hulu Theater from the Madison Square Garden on ESPN, and the WBC IBF WBO straps around the waist of Artur Beterbiev, who is now 3/4 of the light heavyweight champion of the world, stopping Joe Smith in 2 rounds. Mario, Joe Smith is a common man who went up against an uncommon beast.
I told you, Kimster. I told you, Kimster. You said Bivol was the best in that division, and you also said Joe Smith has a good shot of taking him out if he's aggressive in the first four rounds. I told you my guy who's got 100% knockout ratio is #1 in that division for a reason. I don't care if he's got 19 fights. And I don't want people sleeping on him anymore, saying that he's just a power puncher. My guy's boxing skills are incredibly underrated. He had a great amateur pedigree, highly decorated amateur. I love everything about him, and I know the interview I like too, and he's likable too. He's from the same area, Dagestani, as Khabib. I know he's Chechnyan, but he's from there, and those cats are just built different. They're incredibly, first of all, there's nothing that can intimidate them. They come from these incredibly hard, tough environments, so they're just naturally hardened individuals. Not to mention, they're devout in their faith. They happen to be Muslim, so they're incredibly disciplined. I heard my guy, obviously they don't drink because they don't drink that religion, but he feels bad. He has 1 cookie and he feels bad. And he's telling to his trainer, and this is in between fights, not even, he's just constantly keeping himself like a fine-tuned machine. I thought he would sort of walk Joe Smith down and eventually take him out. Never did I think it would be utter destruction like that, because remember, Joe Smith is a big, strong, very durable guy at 175 who's never been dropped, amateur or pro, known for having a great chin. My guy went out there and demolished him in 2 rounds. And the crazy thing is, everybody's saying he didn't have the right game plan. He should have. I disagree. We both talked about it last week. I think his only shot was to go out there and let those hands fly and test that chin, because if not, the boxing skills would then have come into play. He gets stronger, sort of like a snowball. He ends up breaking you down, taking you out a la Gvozdyk. I'm sorry.
The nail.
If I'm saying his name. Gvozdyk. It could have been played out like that, but instead, Joe Smith went right at him, and I'm so glad this was on ESPN, and a lot of people got to see it. Went right at him, and if you're going to go in a firefight and stand toe-to-toe with him, you better come correct with your punches and not wing those punches. And what I thought was so incredibly impressive about Beterbiev is when he dropped him the first time, he set a nice trap for him. He was blocking that right hand nice. He set a nice trap for him. It was a short, crisp over-the-hand right, because kind of to the temple. The scary thing was all the knockdowns, Kim, weren't even like planted, and he got full extension on his punches. They were short, compact punches, left hooks, sneaky overhand rights, peppering them with those small uppercuts. It's scary how powerful this guy is, bludgeoning with his punches. Joe Tessitore was texting me afterwards, and he was saying, Mario, you should hear the punches up close, which I want to ask you about too, but took him out of there in devastating fashion, made a loud statement that he's the man in that division. And if Bivol wants to take that fight, I have no doubt that he's a confident, very a fighter that doesn't back down either. That fight, I feel like he's like a pitcher that has to pitch a perfect game, is not allowed for mistakes, because I think eventually Beterbiev breaks you down. If he's not going to stand toe-to-toe with him, breaks you down, and there's not room for error, because when those punches land, it is lights out. The push-up videos that he does, when he goes from fingertips to knuckles to wrists, I was like, whoa, that's next level strength. And he takes the 45-pound dumbbell and sort of twists it like this. I'm like, my guy is just built different. Bravo for an experience. How was it in person?
Well, we'll talk about Bivol later. Well, Joe Smith, here's the problem. In terms of his strategy, I don't really second guess him. He's not Floyd Mayweather at 175. It's a catch-22. I mean, he's never actually outboxed anybody. This is not Harold Johnson here, okay? I actually liked what he did. He had a first good 60 seconds.
I agree.
I'm thinking, the way he did it, though, there was no feinting. His sense of distance and range and when he wanted to punch was a little bit faulty. Also, as you mentioned, he had a little bit of fat and some width on his punches, and it was openings for Beterbiev that he could easily exploit. And there was an electricity in the building. I'd say 90% of that audience were union workers and his colleagues from Long Island.
They were quiet.
There were some fans from Brooklyn for Bruce Carrington. There were some Isley people. But that place was essentially Long Island. And when that first right hand kind of clubbed off him and he went to a knee, the energy just got sucked out of the building. You almost felt right then, this fight is over. And then as he came out for the second round, even before the 2 knockdowns, you could see it. His legs were very unsteady.
The first knockdown hurt him, but I think fear started to set in, and a guy who's never been dropped and realize he's mortal, I think that fear and that apprehension starts to weigh heavy. And it was just a matter of time at that point. Does that make sense?
Yes. Keep this in mind. Joe Smith, throughout his amateur and pro career, had never hit the deck. When all of a sudden you get bang and you're down in that moment against that monster, you're like, uh-oh. Now, Artur Beterbiev, 19 up, 19 down. He's a man that speaks softly but carries a big stick. These are some of his comments post-fight.
Artur, are you surprised by how quickly that fight went?
No, I'm not surprised because it's boxing, you know. It can be happen.
Were you surprised he came out so aggressively?
He came so this, you know, he has style like this, you know. Even any fight he do like this, all time like this.
Did you enjoy that style?
And Mario, you're absolutely correct. When you take a look at his technique, I think everyone falls into a trap of thinking, unless you're a boxer, and unless you try to go the distance, and you try to outpoint everybody, people think only those guys can be skilled. Mario, my view is this. If you know how to hit people and hit them hard, that in itself is a skill. It's like hitting a baseball. Bottom line. Don't have to be athletic, don't have to be fast, but if you can put the barrel of the bat on the ball and consistently hit line drives, that's a skill.
That fight was a perfect example of the phrase, there are levels to this sport. He's a guy who's not flashy, not necessarily exceptionally fast. He's quick, but not necessarily exceptionally fast. He's just incredibly fundamentally sound. And when you have that sort of power with those fundamentals, and obviously we talked about his discipline and how he's always well-conditioned, that's a dangerous man where there's not a lot of room for error at all. Because one punch could be lights out, but he sets up his punches. I think he showed, too, that he's not one to just go out there and let it wing. He sets up his punches. He lays traps. He can box. He can box, too. He just happens to have those incredibly heavy hands.
And we talk about speed. Would I call him a speed demon? No, but you know what he is? He's compact. There is no wasted movement.
Correct.
And you talk about his manners. I remember when I was at ESPN, I had to go to a fighter meeting when he fought the Nail Gavozic. So I'd go to the fighter meetings, and he was very respectful, almost shy to everybody. There were a couple females in the room, and this is how devout of a Muslim he is and how he adheres to it. Shook everyone's hand, looked him in the eye, but when it came to the females, because of his faith, he says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to touch you at all except my wife." Dude, he was very nice about it, and everyone understood, and he went about his business. It said something about him that, man, this guy is really, really grounded in certain principles.
I respect that. Just like Khabib. Khabib's the same way, and those sort of individuals are just built different. You're not going to deter them. You're not going to catch them out of shape. They're not going to be intimidated in the least. And you add all of that, all of that sort of discipline and focus, and he happens to be blessed with that sort of power. Yeah, you know, the only thing that is a little, I don't want to say frustrating, but he's 37. I would love to see another 10 years of him, but we're lucky if we get another 2.
He'll be one of these guys with the resume. It'll be quantity, but the quality in terms of the fight and what he has done. Think about it. In less than 20 fights, he's had 2 unification bouts. one step away from going undisputed, and we'll talk about that later. The co-main of this night, featherweight prospect Rungvisai Ramirez with a highlight reel knockout over Abraham Nova. Mario, when Top Rank signed him back in 2019, this was like a blue chip signing. I remember they sent out a press release, two-time Olympic gold medalist.
I remember he beat Shakur Stevenson.
Right, and then he lost his pro debut to some journeyman in Philadelphia, and it was stunning. He is now turning into a pro. There was a concern that maybe he's one of these Cubans that stayed professional or stayed amateur a little bit too long, and they were never going to be able to transform themselves to the paid ranks. I want to give Ismael Salas, the trainer, credit. I spoke to him a night or two before the fights at the Stewart Hotel, and he told me, because we're going back and forth, he does have some English skills, and I said, Mr. Salas, was this more about the mentality and changing the mindset of a talent? He goes, yes. He goes, it wasn't the skills. He can do everything in the ring, and I think him being Cuban helps because he can relate to him. And he said, no, this is professional prize fighting. It's not if you win, how you win matters. And what he did to Abraham Nova, just icing him with that straight left, look, I think a Shakur Stevenson has outgrown him. And that first loss kind of set that plans kind of to Bolivian. But in a fight or two, him against Emmanuel Navarrete, it's an interesting fight.
That's a fun fight. That's a fun fight right there. Yeah, no, it's exciting. A lot of exciting stuff that's been happening, and it's nice to see him get back on track. And reminding me of when Lomachenko lost to
Salido, second pro fight.
Exactly. So it was very similar. He's a talented guy, obviously. So it looks like he's back on track.
Yeah, it looks like it's more of a blip on a radar than anything else. All right, this Saturday night from the Techport Arena in San Antonio, Texas, on the DAZN, what I believe is the most fan-friendly card of the summer. I cannot wait to be tuning in. Top of the bill, WBC Junior Bantamweight title is on the line. Jesse Bam Rodriguez takes on veteran Secret Setsor Rungvisai. Then the WBA and IBF Junior Featherweight Champion MJ Akhmadaliev takes on local product Ronny Rios. And for the WBC Flyweight title, going back down in weight, Julio Cesar Martinez takes on McWilliams Arroyo. Bam Rodriguez, one word I use to describe him, ambitious. Ugh.
Listen, I love this kid every time I've seen him fight. It's going to be interesting because now he's in his hometown. A lot of pressure, a lot of people probably in his ear, hitting him up for tickets. He's headlining, and he's going up against a tough, scary individual. Remember when he fought Chocolatito, and I said, ooh, I didn't like that style, and then he was victorious twice. He's a rugged, tough guy, a little older now, but this is going to show us if Bam's ready for this next level. I like this fight a lot, and I love that it's free.
Jesse Rodriguez, saw him at Robert Garcia Boxing Academy about 2 weeks ago, and I asked him, is it different this time, though, given the fact your last fight with Quadras was on 7 days' notice and you had to move up in weight? Are you now acclimated to being a junior bantamweight? He said, yes. Yes. Now I'm not a guy that's going to have to move up in weight theoretically late. Now I'm actually coming back down. He spars with much bigger guys in the gym. Let me just say this about Bam. When I talk about the future of boxing, who are those guys that are going to be the elite talents? Obviously, Boots, Shakur, Devin Haney, maybe a Vergil Ortiz. Bam Rodriguez is right up there. Now, he's going to be held back by his relative lack of size. But when I see him work out, he's like a textbook on how to step with punches, balance, the way shifting of weight, the torque. He reminds me, if Mark Too Sharp Johnson was a little Mexican guy, he'd be him. I think he's that good.
Yeah, no, he is, and he's very mature for his age, and he seems a lot more seasoned. It's interesting that you didn't mention Teofimo Lopez when you were rattling off. Guy has one loss. You threw him to the freaking curb quick, Kim, and it was a close loss at that. You're waiting to see the next fight.
I am. I don't trust Teo. I don't know what's going on up here. I'm gonna be honest. Look, no one can ever say I'm a Teofimo. I hate the word quote unquote hater. I drove the bandwagon, but my job is to be honest about this. Some of the things that I see and some of the things that he tweets. One of the ways you become a star, you got to have mental stability. Mm-hmm. You got to be good up here. There's a lot of talented guys that just can't keep it together. Like,
that's true.
When I see Jesse Rodriguez, he's like a 30-year-old young man. Mm-hmm. Devin Haney, I've said this to other people, he's the most mature kid out of all those guys.
Listen, you wish all these guys could have the Beterbiev discipline, and that's not the case.
Right. Well, they grew up in a different world. But I'm going to take, some people are thinking that maybe Rodriguez is biting off more than he can chew, but there's a term that I use, trajectory of career. And age does matter. Secret Setsor Rungvisai, it's been at least 2 years since he put on a performance where you're like, wow.
Yeah.
He's winning. He's doing okay. He's getting by. Rodriguez, in my view, is a special fighter. He's quicker off the trigger. I think he's a little bit faster. I think he's the goods. He comes out of this, I believe.
We're going to see. We're going to see on Saturday.
And should he win this fight, given the relative lack of fights, at this stage, beating Quadras and Rungvisai,
that's an impressive run.
I don't know if he's top 10 pound for pound. He ain't that far behind.
Yep.
And the other fight that's very pivotal here, MJ Akhmadaliev, managed by our good friend Vadim Kornilov, takes on Ronny Rios, who has revived his career.
That's a good fight.
If Akhmadaliev can win this fight, I just wonder, will the politics get in the way of making a full-blown unification against Stephen Fulton? We'll see. News and notes. Mario, there's a lot of things going on in the world of boxing. Let's get through them. August 6th, it's been announced by Golden Boy Promotions. Vergil Ortiz will take on Michael McKinson. Then, September 4th, I know you're just waiting to bring out your wallet and go pay-per-view for this one, Mario. Andy Ruiz takes on Luis Ortiz on a PBC pay-per-view. And I don't know if this is good or bad news, Mario, but George Kambosos made comments last week. He will activate his rematch clause versus Devin Haney. Get ready for G League 2.
Well, Devin Haney's happy about that, I'm sure. I was surprised that it's back in Australia, but I guess that's where it makes the
deal's
most.
The deal.
Yeah, it makes the most economic sense. So when will that fight take place? If
probably in the fall.
Okay.
Sooner the better.
Okay.
I just, here's the one thing.
Let's get it out of the way. No, and Geely was a great analogy too, because nobody needs to see that again. No one's clamoring. However, if Kambosos decides to be more aggressive and walk through that fire, it could be a more entertaining fight.
Here's the thing. He always talks about being a Spartan warrior, which is fine. Well, he was against Teofimo Lopez. In that fight, he was the Salvation Army. If you want to lay back and try to time Devin Haney, you want to catch him with that perfect shot, it's never going to happen.
He realizes that doesn't work. And he seems like a pretty bright kid, so let's assume he makes the adjustments.
I am so sick and tired. And look, me and you like battles. We like wars. But I'm sick of guys capitulating psychologically to boxers and just giving up, and then after the fight, the guy ran. Look, you know what Devin Haney is. You know what he's going to do. Your job is to change that. He did nothing. So let's hope that he starts to roll the dice a little bit and take more risks. I almost believe his mentality has to be, I have to fight in a way that I'm willing to be knocked out.
Exactly.
Really?
That's how Joe Smith fought. And guess what? He got knocked out. But you have to fight that way if he wants a chance at winning, because the last time, whatever he did didn't work.
What do you make of Andy Ruiz leaving Eddie Reynoso? Rough year for Reynoso, by the way.
Yeah. What are you hearing is the reasoning? Just a lot on his plate, or
maybe both. Maybe the shine is off. Look, today's genius is tomorrow's dunce. You win a few fights, you're the greatest trainer ever. You lose a couple of fights, and all of a sudden you don't know anything about boxing. Every trainer goes through this.
It's unfortunate because I never think it's a good idea. That seemed like a good mix, good pairing right there too. He can be a little.
Was
more,
it?
It's on paper. I'm saying it came across. He could Mexican, obviously. He
but he's lazy.
Well, okay. I'm assuming it. Well, look at what's the one thing?
Okay.
Hold on, but what's the one thing Canelo isn't? Lazy. He's incredibly disciplined. He works hard. They have tough camps. He's got someone to inspire him right there. You would think on paper that's exactly what Ruiz needs.
So you're saying osmosis.
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't take.
No, it didn't take, but I'm saying on paper it looks like that's exactly what he would need. A tough disciplinaire and someone who's the brightest star in the sport, and it's going to rub off on you and somehow. So, if he left because he wants an easier path or a little more control in his camp, then that's disappointing on his end. I don't know what I'm just speculating. I don't know what the reason is, but I thought that would be a nice little pairing there.
This reminds me of what Chuck Noll once told his football players when he first got the job. He said, if I ever have to motivate you to play the game of football, I'm going to get a new player. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Also,
who is he with by now?
Some Mexican guy that's going to take a payday. And then every time he misses a day, he'll just say, no, I gave him the day off. I know the way it works. Also, August 20th, it's Jeddah, please, in Saudi Arabia, the rematch. Anthony Joshua takes on Oleksandr Usyk.
It's official. It's going to be 148 degrees when they fight. Seriously, it's crazy out there, but obviously it's a lucrative sight. I mean, we'll get into breaking down the fight a little bit later, but it's going to be interesting to see, of course, if Joshua makes those adjustments. I like the pairing with Garcia. He needs to be more aggressive. He needs to be a little more action-packed. I like the pairing with Anthony Joshua and Robert Garcia. Again, it makes sense on paper. Tough environment. Get him to be more offensive. He should let his hands go a little bit more. Is one camp enough? I don't know. I would have liked to have seen another one, but we know the risk versus reward in that. So, a lot of these times you're not going to show these guys how to fight, or you just got to get in their head and get them to believe in themselves again and instill a little bit more confidence and be a little bit more offensive-minded. Hopefully Garcia can do that.
I am a big Robert Garcia fan, and I said a couple weeks ago, and I kind of botched it. Robert Garcia is actually not training him in Riverside. He had to go all the way out to the posh surroundings, the nice, clean gym that Joshua always
Where?
trained. I don't know, but I didn't
Was
like
it here
that.
in California?
No, it's over there. And my view is...
Wait, over there, England or here in the
whatever
States?
he trains at that nice place that's as antiseptic as a...
It's in the UK.
Yes, it's about as antiseptic as a dentist's office. And that's always been one of my problems with Anthony Joshua.
That's one of the things I thought
Right.
was that
No,
was going
and
to
I-
come out of
and I
here.
wanna
Well,
say
then
this.
that doesn't
Right.
count.
Remember Rocky 3 when Apollo Creed
Yeah.
said, "You're training with me," and he took him to L.A.?
Well, that's
with
what
the
I thought was
brothers?
happening.
It didn't happen.
Well,
And-
that
Right.
doesn't count.
Right,
You
doesn't.
can't get the guy. You know what I mean? You can't take Apollo and take him. That
Right.
that defeats the whole purpose.
Right. I mean,
I thought he was going to be with all the raza right there and get.
Right,
Oh,
so did
man.
I. And if Anthony Joshua would have made that sacrifice,
Yeah.
I would have been like, "Ooh."
Exactly.
But now it's like,
yeah, exactly. It's
I want who? Not
Yeah.
And my view is this, Anthony. This game's supposed to be tough. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable. And you've had very, very posh surroundings, very clean. I don't know. We'll see. At the end of the day, unless he's willing to enforce his size more effectively, it doesn't matter what happens. And again, this is another situation. This is more psychological than physical.
Exactly.
Before we move on, last week I dropped the ball. I forgot to mention a name that was part of this recent class of Hall of Famers that are now permanently have a place in Canastota. One of our favorite fighters, a guy that's one of the first guys I covered out here as I began
my
this
favorite
journey
of
in
all time.
boxing. Juan Manuel Marquez. Let's pontificate against the great counterpuncher.
I named one of my dogs after Juan Manuel Marquez. That's all you got to know. Because we've had Chavez, we've had Juan Manuel Marquez, and I've Salvador Sanchez. So he's on my Mount Rushmore of great Mexican fighters. Maybe even as a personal favorite too. The thing about Marquez, it's fascinating because he started out at the Forum. That's from what I remember.
Yes, he did.
Obviously very technically sound, and him and Nacho were just the perfect team. Very technical, not necessarily thought of as a exciting fighter, just a very efficient, beautiful counterpuncher. But as the level of competition rose and as he got a little bit older and his faculty started to I don't say diminish, but he just started to slow down, as we all do as we get older, he became that much more aggressive and exciting. And obviously he'll be, I think, known for his wars with Pacquiao. And last week I gave Pacquiao credit for facing a guy who's a bad style for him. And Marquez, I think, put the exclamation point with that vicious knockout in the fourth. And I know he fought Barrera, and he
No, he never fought Barrera.
Pardon me. He didn't fight. He never fought Barrera, and he never fought Morales.
No, wait. He did fight Barrera late. Never fought Morales.
He never fought Morales. He did
Yes.
fight Barrera. See, I was right. I know he fought Barrera, but he never fought Morales. Is the only one that I wish I would have seen. That would have been a nice. But he's a guy who. Him along with his brother, I put them up as one of the greatest brother duos, the Klitschko's and them. One of my favorites, again, gentleman in the ring, a gentleman out of the ring, warrior in it, class act throughout. I remember when he fought Mayweather. Mayweather made him. He missed weight. Remember?
And they paid him a lot
And
of
they paid
money
him a lot
to
of
make a
money.
new weight.
Exactly. And he was drinking his pee during the camp, which was the biggest, and it just, anything you look back to, you just think class act, wars, well-deserved nod for Hall of Fame.
He was always the third banana in the first half of his career behind Morales and Barrera.
Mm-hmm.
He was at Forum Boxing, but he was a highly respected, skilled guy who even Mexican fans thought he was the boring one. I used to get that a lot.
Yeah.
He was so good and dangerous, though. In 1999, he was the WBO mandatory #1. Prince Nassim Hamed told the WBO no. And they allowed it because Hamed was making a lot of money in England. It's one of the worst things I ever saw politically. He was flat out ducked. Then he gets a title shot against Freddie Norwood, who ran like a thief in the night. I always thought that was a bad decision. But over time, his skills, and you're right, as he evolved his style into being a little bit more of a back and forth guy, more and more popularity. And then think about this, and you have to give Joe Cortez credit. I was there April of, I believe, 2004.
When he got dropped 4 times?
After that third knockdown, if Joe Cortez waves it off, no one would have argued.
No.
And think about it, saved one of the most historic rivalries in the sport.
You're exactly right, Kim. And is it not? Where was that fight?
It was in Las Vegas.
It was in Las Vegas. Had it been in California, does the 3 knockdown rule come into effect?
No, it was a championship fight. You have ABC rules at that point.
Oh, got it.
So, and the other thing is,
but had it not been, think about that. It would have been stopped no matter what.
And I covered a lot of Marquez fights, and it was almost at times he was too clinical, too perfect. But I remember him fighting on I think it was 2010 Thanksgiving weekend. An absolute back-and-forth Thanksgiving weekend war with Michael Katsidis. That was an unbelievable fight.
That was a great fight. I was at the fight in Houston.
He fought 2009.
Juan Diaz. And Juan Diaz came out aggressive as he always does.
First 5 rounds, you're thinking he turned old.
Yeah, I thought he turned old. And then he caught him with that beautiful uppercut and laid him out. That was awesome. Awesome fight in Texas.
They called him the baby bull. And he got gored at the end because right around the 8th round, he started to time him. And you're thinking, oh, boy, Juan, you may want to throw in a feint or back off a little bit. And then finally, it was one of the cleanest uppercuts I've ever. And he just got laid out. And you're like, ooh.
He had the nicest jab into an uppercut, and he kind of led with that I've ever seen. It's nobody throws that punch hardly.
When I think of Nacho Beristain, I think of Ricardo Lopez, and I think of Marquez. All right, we'll be back with more on the 3 knockdown rule on Triller. Mario Lopez, Steve Kim talking boxing. We return with Ask Mario and Final Flurries. And we're back on the 3 knockdown rule on Triller. Steve Kim, Mario Lopez pontificating about the sweet science. Let's go to the Ask Mario section of the program. Here's one from Big Sherm. A lot of the blue chip top-ranked talent were in action Saturday night. Who impressed you the most out of Carrington, Tucker, and Isley? Mario, Bruce Carrington, I'm going to say it again. He's slick. He is sound. And I had the chance to really talk to him and meet him for the first time at the Fight Hotel. Did a quick interview. He gets it. You know, certain young men that you meet, you're like, he's got some growing up to do. Other guys, you say, ooh, he gets it. Carrington gets it.
Well, now after hearing that report, I mean, I was always impressed by him, but you're right. There's so many other things that are they going to go the Berlanga route and be a little bit more. If they don't have that, and at a young age they get it, then I'm leaning towards him. Yeah,
he checks all the boxes technically, personality-wise. I think he's very marketable. Pretty good amount of Brooklyn came out for Shushu. If you lead against him and you attack him, he does some James Toney stuff, the catch and counter. Now, if you lay back, he looks a little bit like Mayweather, and his ability to get his hands back defensively, just reflexively, is unbelievable. Like, you could time Carrington, but his hands defensively always come back perfectly. That's a kid, I believe, that can win a title within a dozen fights. I think he's actually that advanced because he's 25 years old. He's a little bit older than some of his colleagues. Here's one from John Herndon, Storyteller. What super fight is bigger, Beterbiev versus Bivol or Spence versus Crawford historically?
Well, I think Spence Crawford still, because it's been building up for so long now.
Bigger box office here.
And it's bigger box office, and we're sort of a prisoner at the moment with Beterbiev now and people thinking about Bivol, but that's a fight I think would also do some pretty decent business. But Spence Crawford by
no, there's no doubt. From an American audience is always going to go with the two Americans, and we've seen them more. And Beterbiev and Bivol, neither of them even have 20 fights. That's the funny thing. By the way, I still think Bivol gives him fits. I know you disagree, but I think
I don't think it's an easy fight, but I just think eventually he finds him and will cut him down. Look,
I would love to get Tim Bradley's thoughts on this because he told us about 4.5 months ago he thought Bivol was number 1 at 175. He did tell us that.
I always thought that. I thought Beterbiev prior, regardless. Remember, but here's the thing. Again, he's 37. That fight happens when this next year, and if that happens a year or two from now, well, then that's a little different.
Those openings, those hanging curveballs that were thrown by Joe Smith, are not there.
You know what I would compare it to? You know what I'd compare it to? I'd compare it to more the Gavitzik fight.
Gavozic.
I compare it to more like, I think it'd be like that. Gavozic was having success, but that eventually ended up getting caught and broken down. And I think that's what would happen with Bivol. Bivol got touched by Joe Smith too. Remember that. So, and that's
he got hit with one real good punch in the 10th.
That's all you need from Beterbiev. So that's what I'm saying. And that was why Joe Smith touching you. Beterbiev touching you is a whole nother thing. So I think it would play out a lot like his fight against the Nail, personally.
You know, one thing, Bob Arum.
He'd have to pitch a perfect, like I said, he'd have to pitch a perfect game.
Bob Arum was throwing water all over, going, Bivol, no one knows who he is. He fights on the dead zone.
The
And
dead zone.
I'm like, well, wait
he
a minute.
calls it the dead zone. That's pretty good for him.
And I'm like, well, wait a minute, Bob. Beterbiev's not exactly the most popular guy either. He's the road fighter this weekend.
No,
and now
but,
he
he fought on ESPN, and now he's got a lot of buzz behind him. You don't underestimate a basic cable. That's a lot of people.
I'm with you on that. It'd be nice if ESPN ever, like, I don't know, did promotional spots or ads
I
for it
agree.
more than they do. And think about it. His next fight's going to be in the UK against Anthony Yard, who I think is going to run around the ring and eventually get caught. Okay, so
I think he could have fought Yard that night, by the way. He could, after that second round, Yard should have just gloved up, and they should have fought him right there, get him out of the way.
Here's my view. Now, if you're Bivol, I'm going to say this to Vadim Kornilov, our good friend. Vadim, I don't want you saying anything else, but okay, we're going to do our career. Because you got the younger guy. You're right. See, Bob could make a calculated move here that could backfire. Since he is 37, he might inadvertently age out his own fighter.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If I'm Bivol, I fight Zurdo. And first of all, I fight Canelo if he wants to fight me.
Right.
Number one. By the way, Canelo shouldn't consider trying to go back up to 75 anymore.
I think May 7th and this weekend was a dose of reality.
Yeah, exactly. So if I'm Bivol, I fight. If Canelo wants to fight, I take that payday. And then if not, I fight Zurdo.
And then Watsy. Take those two guys because they're the two WBA
and then
mandatories.
I try to push Beterbiev down as far down as I can. I let Father Time do its thing. Seriously.
Right. And the bottom line, look, do I think Beterbiev wants the unification? He clearly stated he's a fighter's fighter.
Yeah.
But sometimes the business of boxing usurps the wishes of the boxers. Here's one from Ignacio Ortiz. Guys, are you surprised that Jermel Charlo is staying at 154 to fight Tim Tszyu? And who do you guys like in the Madrimov-Soro rematch? I like Madrimov. I thought he was getting to him late. Mario, I'm going to give Jermel Charlo credit if this actually happens. Look, Tim Tszyu, I don't think is actually ready for this fight, but one thing he has is a long right hand, like his father, and he's straight. He's got more power than Castaño. I'll be honest with you. I did not think they were going to fulfill this mandatory. I like this fight. Jermel Charlo's putting up a hell of a resume here.
He really is. He really is. He's outshining his brother a bit with these challenges, and I like that fight a lot, and I too like Nazarmov.
And here's one from Cody Ferguson. Where do you rank Beterbiev after that performance? What's it say about him that he's only been a pro for 10 years and only had 18 fights under his belt?
Well, Bivol too. He's been a pro and he's only got how many fights?
Yeah, I think, well, part of it has been recently the pandemic. That slowed down everybody.
Sure.
Also, a lot of these guys that come out of that Russian or Soviet Union
they have
system.
these long amateur careers.
Right,
too,
so by the time they turn pro at 26, 27, they're not doing 10 4-round fights and then 6 6-round fights. They're kind of going from 4 or 6-round bouts. Okay, are you used to not fighting without headgear?
Yeah.
You're going immediately to 10 because they win a regional title. And once you get into the ratings, it's actually hard to be active because then you're also getting paid more. And the promoter's like, wait a minute, at 6-0, you're selling 38 tickets. I don't really want to pay you $100,000.
Catch-22.
So, and the other thing with Beterbiev, he had some issues. He was originally with PBC. People forget that. He's with a promoter out of Canada that linked up with PBC. That didn't really work out. Unfortunately, look, he's the type of guy like Inoue. If he fought once a month, I'd make plans to watch him. We're probably going to get him one more time at most. Looks like he's going to fight Anthony Yard in October.
That's unfortunate.
And here's one from Clay Stevenson, loyal listener of the 3 Knockdown Rule. Hey, Mario, what's up with Oscar and all this billionaire talk recently? I am not buying that he has any interest in selling Golden Boy. Has De La Hoya hooked up with some big-time investors for possible Golden Boy Promotions expansion? That is more believable.
I mean, I think there's, all little feelers sort of out there, but I think he's just kind of having fun, trolling a little bit. He's got a lot on the docket, and there's he's telling me about a lot of fights coming up, so he's pretty invested.
Oscar says a lot of things. I'm glad, though, that he's focusing in on more realistic goals, because 4 years ago, he said, I want to run for president. I was like, oh, that's pretty bold. Now he just says, I want to run for the mayor of Las Vegas. I'm like, you know what? that might be more your thing. I would have stuck in Pasadena, but I heard he moved to Vegas, by the way.
He's got a property.
He's
got a property there, yeah.
Okay, well, good for him. Maybe throw him a GoFundMe account.
Yeah.
Mario, my trip to New York, I ate like a king. 2 recommendations from the Kimster, outside of Sbarro, of course. Fine New York slice. We went to an authentic Puerto Rican restaurant.
Who's we?
It was me. Well, I had dinner with Evan Korn, Jim Boone, Tim Bradley, various places, Bruce Trampler. I had a good time. I like making small talk.
Okay.
Or learning things.
Where'd you go eat?
The Puerto Rican place we went to on Thursday night may have been one of the best meals I've ever had. Casa Adela. It's in a Puerto Rican neighborhood in the heart of the city. It's one of those places that they don't serve beer, but they say, yeah, if you go to a liquor store, you could bring it in here. We all had the rotisserie chicken, some plantains, the orange rice, the
Down-home
chicken noodle
place.
soup.
I like it.
the fried pork chops looked unbelievable.
Yeah, fried pork chops, damn,
and
all right.
very affordable. So,
Okay.
Wepa to Casa Adela.
Okay.
Then on Friday night, it was Mr. KO Tickets, Jim Boone, Tim Bradley, and I. We had a great boxing discussion for about 2.5, 3. Tim Bradley has so much to say about what he went through in his career. It's a fascinating story. I wish you could lay it out one day with us.
I like
we
Tim
went to
Bradley.
Patsy's Italian Restaurant.
Oh, I know Patsy's.
That's an
Okay.
old school Italian place. It's great.
Yeah.
And Tim Bradley is a great dinner guest because he has so many stories. He lets it all go.
Good for
And
you.
then I went to TikTok Diner a couple times. That's an old school New York place.
Yeah, you didn't go to Jimmy's Corner?
Went there twice.
You went
And
there
by the way,
twice?
they did some renovations.
Did they?
They actually moved back a wall 6 inches.
Where
and-
the jukebox is?
Yes, and it makes a huge difference.
Really?
They've
Okay,
actually
yeah, 'cause
done.
it's a tiny place.
They
My
actually-
picture's still up there?
I think it is.
Yeah.
You're royalty. I mean, not royalty as I am. When I walked in, everyone went nuts. They thought they'd never see me again. And I was like, nah, we're good. We're good. I'm always going to go. And by the way, you could kill your liver or damage it forever for like $60.
I know. Cheapest
People are
drinks in New York.
amazed how cheap it is there.
Unbelievable for New York. I don't know how he pays his rent.
And so, by the way, remember last year how someone stole the hat and the cane and the jacket of Jimmy Glenn? They had like
Yeah.
They kind of know who did it. And for that person, watch your back.
I bet.
Watch
Good.
your back.
Boy,
By
they
the way,
have it
New
coming.
York, like you said, pretty much back to normal.
Yeah.
Everyone's walking around, very few masks, no businesses asked if you've been vaxxed.
Nice time of year now,
No
too.
testing. Yeah, weather was really nice. So I had a good trip out there.
Good for you. Good for you. I went to the Yamava Casino over at San Manuel. Used to be a San Manuel. It was only like an hour outside
Oh, they changed the
of LA.
name of it?
Bro, they put in like $750 million.
Whoa.
It rivals that of any Vegas casino. It's really nice. And they got a really cool new venue. They had the Chili Peppers open. Pink's coming up. They got a lot of great acts coming up. And the dinners were like next level. We had like a 7-course marathon dinner. The chef came out every course. Took 3.5 hours for this dinner. It's like, and there's champagne and wine for every course. And he comes and explains it. I'm like, oh my God. I had to watch the fight. I had him put it on the TV there as we're having dinner, which was nice. But but upstairs I wanted to watch. I was going to mirror the UFC fight in that, so I didn't get to watch that. So I just watched the Beterbiev fight, which was great. But it tripped me out because I gambled a little bit. Hadn't played in a while. I played a little blackjack. I was going to go play craps. Did you know in the state of California you're not allowed to have die
What?
or a marble for roulette?
What?
They play craps, but they play with cards. And they play roulette with cards. I thought that was the most.
Okay, that's not really.
That's the
authentic
weirdest thing. It's the weird, right? Like you still play the game, but you can't have die. I go, is that a COVID thing, or was that they're all no? It's just been because of the reservations. That's what I go. That's the weirdest rule ever. Part of the fun,
But
with
they
craps
still
is you
call
get
it by that name.
Yeah, it's still craps. It's still roulette, but but there's no marble and it's with cards. Is that the weirdest
I
thing?
call that roulette light and follette.
Yeah, exactly. I just thought that was weird. And they had they're known for their slots. They had some big their slots. There's $5,000 slots.
What?
5,000 that pay out $2.5 million and stuff. It's some next level stuff out there in San Bernardino. So I thought that was just a trip though with all that stuff, but it was a good time, man. We went there and they're like a sponsor for the radio show, and so we went to hang out. And it was a lot of fun.
Mario, what are you watching right now?
Dude, right now what did I finish? So I finished Better Call Saul. Okay, I'm going to my phone to look at because I have to kind of keep up with everything for work and stuff. But here's what I'm watching. I've got 2 more episodes to go. Or 3 more episodes to go on Stranger Things, which you would love because it's all placed in the 80s and the music is great and all the nostalgia. But they've gotten really spooky this year. Like they've taken and it used to be a little more fun, and now it's like almost like a horror show. Next, I'm watching on Paramount Plus. They're stepping it up too. The Offer. That's the making of The Godfather. Miles Teller, who plays Goose, we went to see. He plays
That
the
sounds
producer.
interesting.
I'm hearing great things about the making, so I'm watching that. Then I got to go finish Peaky Blinders, the latest season, another awesome show. Then I'm going to watch Under the Banner of God. That's the one about the cult, the Mormon cult with Andrew Garfield. That's on Hulu. That's supposed to be great. Then I got to watch the latest season of Hacks. That's a funny show. You'd like that one too. So that's what I've got on the docket. That's not my documentaries, by the way. It's a whole nother deal. But those are the shows I'm watching right now. I got to write them down because there's so damn many.
Okay. One thing I'm watching.
What are you watching? Like Real Housewives again?
No.
You're over that
the
now, huh?
food that built America on the History Channel. It's actually very interesting about how. No, it's about the rise of Pepsi, Coke, the rivalries they had, McDonald's, the rise of fast food, the rise of bubble gum, and how it actually intertwined into history.
So how we got fat?
Some of it, yes. But like the Cola Wars, that edition was really good. Debbie's Cakes, how that company started,
yeah.
and Hostess. I actually have watched the whole season. I binged it.
Damn, Kim, you got to step it up, bro, with some of your shows right here. I'm telling you. There's quality television.
And I'm telling you, folks, Yellow Jackets on Showtime. I thought
you haven't seen Yellowstone, which is incredible. And even better than that, 1883, you would love that.
What's 1883 about?
1883 is the prequel to Yellowstone on how the grandfather got there. It's probably the best show I've seen this last year. And they're going to do another spin-off called 1932. That's with Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren. They're getting, and Stallone's doing a show called Tulsa King. This is all Taylor Sheridan, the dude. He's killing it right now. Probably the hottest guy in Hollywood.
All right, well, I'll hear about it from you. Anyway, that's it for this week's
Keep watching Yellow Jack Off or whatever it's called.
Hey, kids are listening. Anyway, that's it for this week's edition of the 3 Knockdown Rule on Triller. On behalf of Mario Lopez, Smokin' Tim Frazier, Justin Buffalo Knuckles, and Tino on the edits. Goodbye, everybody.